Sinister Trail Tales, 7 spine-chilling stories revealed from haunted paths and cursed locations. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting eerie shadows across the trails of Willow Creek as Sarah and her son Lucas ventured into the woods. Tension hung thick in the air, heavy with the weight of the urban legend whispering through their sleepy suburb stories of the Whispering Hiker, a phantom figure that called to lost souls, leading them into madness. Children spoke in hushed tones about hikers who never returned, their disappearances woven into the very fabric of Willow Creek. Sarah brushed these tales aside, but a chill crawled up her spine as she recalled the stories. They tread further into the trees. Laughter echoed, shattering the menacing quiet. Lucas's wide eyes sparkled with curiosity as he darted between wildflowers, oblivious to the chilling atmosphere. Yet, as evening deepened, the sounds of nature faded, replaced by an unsettling whispering that seemed to wrap around them like a dark shroud. The leaves rustled, and Lucas tilted his head towards the trees, asking why they seemed to be speaking. Sarah felt a knot tighten in her stomach. She told him it was just the wind, yet every fiber in her being reminded her that it was anything but that. A figure lurked in the distance, cloaked in shadows, barely discernible among the gnarled branches. Who watched from the dark? Panic clawed at Sarah's throat. She remembered the warnings, Joe's hesitant voice echoing in her ears, rattling off tales of things he'd seen, things he never should have shared with her. She hadn't seen him in years, yet the weight of his past pressed down on her now, whispering doubts into her mind. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, merging with her racing thoughts and filling her with dread. A gnawing realization struck her. Children had vanished from these trails, every case dismissed, forgotten in the mundane lives of Willow Creek's residents. The stories she brushed off as legends felt all too real. Panic hit at the thought of Lucas slipping away, just a moment lost in this dark labyrinth of trees. "Lucas," she shouted, her voice echoing in the shroud of twilight. The silence that followed was deafening. Her heart raced as she pushed deeper into the woods, her breath coming in quick, shallow gasps. "Lucas!" Her voice trembled, creeping into the void. How could he just vanish? Just then, she caught a flicker of a headlamp in the distance. Relief surged through her, fueled by hope. But in the pit of her stomach, something felt wrong. The shining light danced erratically, chasing shadows as Sarah's eyes darted between the dark underbrush. Could it be help or something more sinister? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. She squinted into the approaching beam, her pulse quickening as the distant figure drew closer. "Help! My son is lost," she shouted, her voice raw with fear. But just as the figure broke through the foliage, shadows stretched unsettlingly across his familiar features. Was it Joe? The distorted echo of his voice twisted her breath into a gasp. A branch cracked behind her, sending her heart plummeting into a pit of dread. Was it the Whispering Hiker? Who were they really, hiding behind the cover of night? The whispers swirled, and her mind raced with panic. Would the truth about this place, the secrets woven into the fabric of her family, unravel tonight? The forest itself seemed to close in, a silent witness to the horrors just waiting to be revealed. All light from the headlamp flickered, momentarily blinding Sarah as the figure stepped into the dim glow. It was Joe. The familiar face, twisted in expressions of anguish and desperation, sent a new wave of panic crashing through her. "Help me," he choked out, his voice trembling like autumn leaves in a gale. "They're coming, they're everywhere." Sarah's heart raced faster than her racing thoughts. "Lucas, have you seen him? Where is he?" She took a step forward, reaching out, but Joe backed away, the shadows still clinging to him like a shroud. "No, you don't understand. He's in danger." His eyes darted around, wild, as if the trees themselves were closing in. The whispering intensified, a chorus of eerie echoes that penetrated her mind, urging her to listen. "We have to go now," he shouted, but Sarah was frozen, every instinct warning her away from him. "Why should I trust you?" she spat, her voice edged with panic and disbelief. Memories flooded back. Memories of tales woven under the blanket of numerous family gatherings, the same tales Joe spun with dread, of children getting lost in these woods, their laughter forever silenced. Before Joe could respond, a rustling sound erupted from behind the trees, drawing both their gazes away. The air was thick with an icy breath, and Sarah shivered involuntarily. Is that? The trees shifted, branches scratching together as if whispering secrets. The shadows elongated, twisted, becoming shapes more than shadows, something alive. Run. Joe's voice cut through the terror like a knife. We have to get out of here. But something gripped Sarah's heart, tethering her feet to the ground. There was a thread of something dark, something that pulled her towards the eerie whisperings, beckoning her deeper into the forest. She could feel her sanity slipping just a little, like sand through her fingers. Lucas! She screamed again, the echo of his name swallowed by the dark. Joe's arm shot out, grabbing hers, pulling her back. We can't stay here. Sarah finally jerked free from his grasp. The urge to find her son surged within her. Before she could stop herself, she dashed towards the sound. The whispers transformed into soft calls that tugged at her, promising relief, clarity. The path opened wider, revealing a clearing bathed in the sickly glow of moonlight. Sarah's breath hitched. In the center, a small figure crouched on the ground, vulnerable and still. Lucas! She cried, rushing toward him, fear blossoming into desperate hope. But as she knelt beside him, the world tilted. The boy turned, and the torchlight illuminated his face. It wasn't he, Lucas. The boy's eyes mirrored nothing but emptiness, hollow like a forgotten echo, sending waves of cold dread surging through her veins. Where's my son? Panic echoed in her throat as she scrambled to her feet, scanning the tree line. Where were the others? Were they watching? Mommy, I can hear them. The boy's voice was hauntingly soft as he pointed into the darkness. They're calling. They want me to come. The warnings echoed in her mind. The stories of what awaited those who followed, the whispers, the missing children, lost to the forest forever. Had she walked into a snare, a trap set to ensnare her very soul alongside Lucas? A cold wind swept through the clearing, rustling leaves and sending shivers down her spine. No, she screamed, racing back towards where she had left Joe, but the trees twisted, reshaping the path. The surroundings seemed more alive now, pulsing, whispering, begging her to turn back. With a jolt, she realized the whispers weren't just in her mind. They were ever present, swirling around her in the night. You're too late, they hissed. You shouldn't have come. The woods had woven a sinister tapestry around her, pulling tight. Can you hear them? They're calling for you too. Sarah's heart thundered in her chest, a primal fear erupting. She could either fight, try to save what was left of her family, or submit to the whispers and become another lost soul roaming the haunted trail. But which choice would cost her the most? As she turned back toward the path, ready to dive deeper into the suffocating dark, she felt the chilling embrace of a presence behind her. The shadows solidified, the whispers escalating into a cacophony of despair. Mommy, the boy's voice came once more. Only now it felt far away. Stay with us. And for the first time, the shadows emerged fully, shifting and morphing into shapes that sent icy fingers creeping down her spine. Who were they really? The lost or the hungry? An overwhelming urge to flee surged within her, but the forest had its intent. It was not finished with her yet. In that moment of uncertainty, another sound pierced the air. Lucas's laughter echoed, bright and real, cutting through the dark like a beacon. It rang with a familiar warmth, but above all, it was an unmistakable call for help. Lucas! The wood groaned as Sarah's resolve strengthened. She sprinted back into the swirling shadows, driven by the desperate need to reunite with her son. But she knew, deep down, the confrontation was just beginning. The darkness enveloped Sarah, swallowing her whole, as she raced toward the sound of Lucas's laughter. Every shadow seemed to leer at her, mocking her desperation. The trees twisted overhead, branches gnarled like skeletal fingers reaching out to grasp her. Each rustle of leaves was a whisper, a promise of deceit that enveloped her like a shroud. Lucas, I'm coming. Her voice strained, breaking against the thickened air. The laughter echoed again, a haunting melody, pulling her deeper into the serpentine maze of towering pines. But the boy, the one who had pointed into the darkness trailing behind her with hollow eyes, kept calling. They're waiting. Just trust them. They know his voice, almost soothing, draped around her. A deceptive comfort she fought to resist. Sarah spun around, her heart racing. Get away from me. The urgency clawed at her throat as she ran faster, fear mingling with the determination to find Lucas. Ahead, the whispering grew louder, tinged now with an undercurrent of laughter that resonated within her bones. Then she stumbled. The underbrush twisted beneath her, roots and twigs grasping for her ankles like a creature intent on pulling her down, into defiant silence. Mommy, the boy from before, was closer, now much too close, standing just beyond her reach, his hollow gaze fixed on her. They won't let you go. Stop, she yelled, scrambling to her feet, her head spinning. Each movement felt heavy, weighed down by an unseen force that pulled at her every step. But she couldn't focus on him, not now. Sounds of rustling leaves and snapping branches echoed around her, relentless like a heartbeat, and memories from childhood stories drifted back, warnings her mother whispered on stormy nights, tales of creatures that lured children into the deep. Sarah pushed forward. The laughter grew louder, reverberating through the chilling air. Lucas, she cried again, desperation carving her voice into sharp edges. Then, a flicker of movement ahead caught her eye. She could see him, a small silhouette bathed in the eerie glow of moonlight, just beyond the clearing, beckoning her. Lucas. The name erupted from her lips like a cannon fire, raw and urgent. Hope surged through her veins, igniting her spirit. She ran, breaking through the thicket, branches slashing at her face like sharp claws as she stumbled into a wide-open space. The clearing was expansive, moonlight illuminating a nightmarish sight. In the center stood a circle of children, over a dozen of them, their faces pale, eyes wide and glassy. They were swaying gently, lost in a trance, chanting in unison, a haunting cadence that sent chills coursing through her. Join us, they sang, their voices lilting and beautiful, yet filled with an underlying dread that clamped around her throat. We're waiting. It's time to play. Lucas, she cried out, ignoring the chorus surrounding her. Panic surged as she spotted her son crouched among them, eyes empty, but the faintest glimmer of recognition shone through. He didn't move, standing frozen, entranced by something Sarah could not fathom. With every ounce of will, Sarah stepped forward, her heart pounding like a war drum. "He is not yours," she shouted, desperately breaking their spell, but the children turned their empty stares on her, a chorus of whispers mingling in the darkness. "Come, join us, it's fun." The words curled around her like smoke, slithering into her ears and choking her spirit. "Lucas." She lunged, but the ground shifted beneath her, rippling as if the earth beneath her feet had come alive, and she stumbled back. The children continued their eerie dance, their laughter scratched against her skin. Sarah fought the pull of the forest, the whispers tangling around her. The desperation in her mind formed a singular thought. She had to break this hold, take her son from its grasp. But as she fought against the tide, eerie shadows from the trees began to stretch forward, clawing at her, pulling her back. "You can't resist," they hissed, their voices a dissonant melody of lost hope. "Lucas, please, come back to me." Panic struck, but with each desperate plea, the forest came alive with shadows, crescent shapes spiraling toward her. And then, she sensed it, the unmistakable presence behind her again. The weight turned heavy, suffocating as she felt the cold, unforgiving touch of darkness creeping closer. Mommy Lucas's voice was haunting and distant, laced with sorrow. "You have to stay." As Sarah battled against the misery closing in, she realized she was out of time. The shadows loomed, the children's laughter rang like death knells, and deep down, she understood the truth. Some paths couldn't be walked back. Her choice loomed before her. Could she save her son, or would she become another captive of the Sinister Trail? With dread solidifying in her chest, she steeled herself, determined to face what lay behind her. But the forest had its own agenda, and as the laughter turned into a blood-curdling wail, she braced herself for the impending confrontation that would seal their fate. The ground shook, and the laughter twisted into a horrific cacophony that shattered the night. Fear blasted through Sarah, igniting her instincts. She had to reach Lucas before it was too late. The shadows loomed larger, ethereal fingers stretching out as if grasping for the last strands of her sanity. Lucas. Her voice grew thinner, a small beacon in the overwhelming darkness. She lunged toward him, her heart hammering against her ribcage, each beat a reminder of the urgency pressing down on her like a lead weight. The children, still entranced, turned their heads in unison, their glassy eyes reflecting the pale moonlight. "Mommy," they echoed, their voices chilling in their harmony, a choir of sorrow one step from madness. "You should stay with us. Forever." But Sarah couldn't stay. She wouldn't. As she barreled forward, claws of despair scraped at her ankles, dragging her back. She felt their icy breath against her neck, whispering promises of safety and happiness if she only surrendered. "No, not my son," Sarah gasped, breaking through the last line of resistance as she finally reached Lucas. She dropped to her knees, grabbing his shoulders. "Lucas, wake up. It's me. Please come back." He blinked slowly, the flicker of recognition fighting against the foggy trance. "Mommy?" His voice was barely a whisper, drowned out by the surge of laughter and chaos around them. "Yes, I'm here. We need to go now." She tugged at him, pulling him toward her, but he didn't budge. His eyes, normally so full of life, were now like voids, empty and dark. She felt the weight of the forest pressing in, the shadows thickening, pulsing with a sinister intent. The children's song crescendoed, suffocating her resolve. "Come play with us," they sang, their voices weaving through the air like spectral vines, tightening around her chest. She shivered involuntarily, dread blossoming in every corner of her mind. For a moment, she hesitated, a small, traitorous part of her enticed by the thought of surrendering to the sweet, dark oblivion. But no, she couldn't lose him. She wouldn't let Lucas be consumed by this nightmare. "Listen to me," she screamed, desperation clawing at her throat. "Remember our games? Remember the park? We can go home." The frantic energy in her voice penetrated through the haunting chant, just enough to stir something deep within her son, a spark of awareness. "Home," Lucas murmured, blinking rapidly as if waking from a dream. A flicker of fear spread across his face, breaking the entrancing hold the forest had on him. The children's laughter faltered for a moment, uncertainty casting a shadow over their collective face. "Lucas." She gripped him tighter, fighting against the tendrils of darkness that slithered toward them. "We have to run." But the shadows lashed out, as fierce as a storm. Tentacles of gloom thrashed against her legs, infusing her with cold terror. "You can't leave," they hissed with relentless hunger. "You belong to us now, no," Sarah growled, summoning every ounce of strength she could muster. She lifted her head defiantly, locking eyes with the boy who had taunted her earlier. "We are not yours, and we will not be trapped here." With one final pull, she yanked Lucas from the mesmerizing circle. Their freedom sent shockwaves through the children, their song breaking into frantic chaos around them. The forest screamed, enraged, but Sarah felt a weight lift, the shadows recoiling as if burned. "Run," she shouted, leading Lucas away from the thrumming heart of darkness that wantonly sought to reclaim them. They dashed into the forest, her heart racing, crushed leaves beneath their feet like thunder. The echo of laughter chased them, losing its potency with the distance. They broke past trees that seemed to twist and bend, losing their battle against time. But as they sprinted deeper into the woods, Sarah felt it something sinister still pulsating in the air, an echo of a promise that taunted her. "Mommy," Lucas called, his voice trembling. She could hear the dread creeping into his tone. "What?" She turned to him, breathless and wide-eyed. "Are we really free?" Panic lanced through her. The shadows were not the only ones lurking. They had escaped the children, yes, but now what if something else was watching, waiting for just the right moment to strike? The trees whispered, the path behind them fading into darkness, and dread settled like a stone in her gut. It was not over yet. Could they truly escape this nightmare? Or had they simply exchanged one cage for another? And as they disappeared deeper into the twisted maze of the forest, Sarah couldn't shake the chilling thought what awaited them in the night's unforgiving embrace. The forest loomed around them, shadows creeping back, curling into their wake. Each snap of a twig underfoot echoed like gunfire in the consuming silence. Breathless and frantic, Sarah tugged Lucas along, but his small legs struggled to keep up. The overwhelming sense of dread clawed back at them. "Mommy, I'm scared," Lucas said, his voice barely above a whisper, strained with exhaustion and fear. She wanted to reassure him, but the uncertain shadows looming behind them left her speechless. The laughter faded, but the night thrummed with an uneasy presence, as if the dark itself had taken form and was hunting them. "We'll find a way out," she promised, though uncertainty knotted in her stomach. How could she reassure him when she felt the darkness still closing in? As they wove through the trees, the underbrush thickened like a wall meant to keep them confined. Each breath of night air felt colder, biting at her skin and whispering malevolent secrets. Suddenly, a cry echoed in the distance. It was distant yet familiar, a child's cry. The sound curled like smoke around her, twisting memories from the pit of her mind. Every rational part of her screamed to just keep running, but maternal instinct tugged at her heart. "Lucas," she said, pulling him closer. "Stay right by me." They turned, moving deeper into the forest, but the cry came again, sharper this time. It wasn't just one voice. It was a chorus of children, overlapping in shrieks that twisted and morphed into something unrecognizable. They could be calling for help, or perhaps taunting them. "I can't go back, Mommy," Lucas whimpered, clutching her tightly. Forcing her eyes away from the choking darkness, she scanned their surroundings, searching for any path that might lead them to safety. The trees seemed to whisper, their branches bending in a perilous dance, nudging her toward a spectral glade illuminated only by the moonlight filtering through tangled branches. "Please," she breathed, "there has to be a way out." But that glade felt more like a trap. A faint light flickered like a distant lantern, beckoning them, but she hesitated. What lay in that shimmering glow? Could it be salvation or another wicked game? Lucas tugged at her hand insistently. "Mommy, look." His wide eyes were fixed on something behind her. She turned slowly, dread pooling in her chest. A dark figure slinked between the trees, its shape shifting, a seamless blend of shadow and malice. "Run!" Sarah screamed, yanking Lucas away, pushing through the thicket as panic shot through her veins. But the laughter returned, louder, more haunting, echoing all around them, surrounding them like a net in the chaos. She blundered off the narrow path, and the ground beneath them turned uneven and treacherous. "Hold on to me," she cried, clutching Lucas, but the second she felt his tiny fingers slip from hers, terror shot like ice through her heart. The laughter crescendoed, vibrating in her bones, as if the forest itself was alive with the dark intent to swallow them whole. Frantically, she scanned the terrain, searching for her son, but all she saw were shadows twisting into grotesque shapes. "Lucas," she called out, panic coursing through her. The forest plunged into an oppressive silence, the laughter snuffed out like a candle. A heartbeat later, all she could hear were the rhythmic thrums of her racing heart. "Mommy," she finally heard, desperate and small, calling from somewhere nearby. "Where are you?" she shouted, her voice cracking. The shadows split further as she moved, her heart a wild drum demanding she find him. The darkness seemed to roar in response. Then, a ghostly glow flickered ahead, and she rushed toward it, praying it was her son. But as she neared, the face of the light twisted, a child's face distorted with a hideous smile, eyes gleaming with malice. It was not Lucas. "Come play," it beckoned. Sarah staggered back, breath hitching. Had they escaped only to find something worse lurking? The truth dawned like an icy claw clutching her throat. There really was no escape. Not for her, or Lucas. "Lucas!" she cried again, feeling despair claw at her chest. She plunged forward, heart hammering, desperate to find her son, but swallowed by a nightmare more terrifying than she could fathom. All the while, shadows lurked, shimmering with dark promises, and the forest responded with a laughter that pierced the night. Nothing could have prepared her for the horror waiting just beyond the reach of the flickering light. What other secrets might this cursed place reveal? Would they seal their fate with every step deeper into the abyss? The shadows seemed to pulse with a life of their own, an ever-tightening grip around her, and the dreadful anticipation clawing at Sarah's mind. Each step forward felt like a step deeper into a tangled web that threatened to ensnare her forever. What had once been the sound of children's laughter now echoed with a sinister edge, mocking her desperate plight. "Lucas!" She screamed again, her voice cracking as panic twisted her insides. She fought against the fear digging its nails into her heart. Focus, she thought. She had to keep moving, keep searching. The forest was thick, each tree like a sentinel standing guard, watching her intimately as she stumbled through the underbrush. There was no path now, just the darkness and the whispers of unseen things, snaking around her like tendrils eager to pull her down. Lucas. The name felt like a prayer on her lips, sweet and desperate. The flickering light had vanished, leaving only shadows twisted into grotesque shapes, mocking her every impulse to flee. She clenched her fists, heart racing, fear crackling in the air around her. Then, the laughter returned bubbling from somewhere near, sharp and childlike. It echoed among the trees, and the hairs on the back of her neck stood rigid. The laughter split into two, then four. "Help us!" A chorus of innocent voices cried, a tantalizing and terrifying sound. Sarah, it echoed, almost familiar. Her heart tripped. She felt as if the forest was deliberately folding in on her, circling like a predator honing in on its prey. The deceptive notes of innocence dripped with malice. "Lucas," she called again, but the name felt weak in the face of the absurdity surrounding her. Was it a trap? Were they luring her into their dark embrace? Yet nothing could drown out the sliver of hope thrust deep within her, a mother's instinct forged from love. "Mommy," another call, tinged with the wretchedness of pain, made her stumble. "Lucas." She rushed toward it, but the sound flickered like the light never quite in reach, promising but ephemeral. Suddenly, her foot caught on something unseen, and she went sprawling into the dirt. The world dimmed to a muted blur of shadows, pain seeping through her limbs as she hit the ground. She fought to get up, gasping for breath, the night air thick with dread thickening around her. A figure loomed just beyond the tree line, cloaked in darkness. Sarah's heart pounded as it emerged, a silhouette of a child, but something was wrong. The limbs were too long, the head too large. "Come play with us," it crooned, voice sweetly haunting, a warped echo of Lucas's own. "No," she whispered, scrambling back, shaking her head furiously. She couldn't let that thing near her. It moved closer, gliding across the forest floor, a shadow among shadows. Behind it, the laughter grew, filling the air, wrapping around her like a noose. She focused on its eyes. They were twin voids of darkness, mocking her with each step. Every instinct demanded she flee, yet something else, a pull, a twisted gravity nudged her to stay, to listen. "Join us, Sarah," it beckoned, and for a brief moment, she felt warmth wash over her, the longing for comfort enveloping her. But then she remembered Lucas, the pure love that had once filled their home. "No," she screamed, tears streaming down her dirt-streaked cheeks. She staggered to her feet, fueled by fear and resolve. "Where's Lucas?" she demanded, voice trembling yet defiant. The childlike figure paused, tilting its head in a way that made her skin crawl. "Why not let him join?" It whispered softly, an unmistakable evil twinkling in its eyes, threatening to squeeze her heart. "Never." As the desperate refusal left her lips, another child's voice pierced the air. "Mommy, I'm here." Hope surged within her, a spear against the encroaching darkness. The sinister laughter faltered, reluctant to let go. But Sarah felt it even deeper now, an oppressive presence that coiled around her throat, tightening. She spun back toward the direction of the voice, heart pounding with urgency. But the shadows shifted before her, reshaping the forest. Was she racing toward her son or veering deeper into the trap? The darkness paused, holding its breath, and just as Sarah was about to take a step forward, the laughter erupted again, this time layered with a sinister tone that wrapped around her like a shroud. And in that moment of frozen terror, an unsettling certainty settled in her bones. They weren't alone. What else lurked in the dark? She wondered as she plunged forward into the choking blackness. Would Lucas still be waiting for her? Would he have changed forever? The thick silence weighed heavily as she moved. The forest seemed to groan with anticipation. What awaited her next in this hellish game? The shadows shivered, alive with whispers that slithered around Sarah, wrapping her in an icy embrace. As she pressed deeper into the suffocating blackness, the air felt thick with fear, sweat trickling down her spine. Each step was a gamble, her heart thundering in a frantic rhythm that echoed the haunting laughter. "Lucas!" she yelled, voice trembling. The name tumbled into the darkness, swallowed whole. She heard footsteps, not just echoes of her own, but the faint, unsteady patter of tiny feet brushing against the undergrowth. Was it him? Hope ignited, mingling with dread. "Mommy!" The voice was closer now, and her heart ached at the familiar tone. She stumbled forward, branches snagging at her clothes like claws. "Lucas!" Desperation clawed at her throat. She broke into a sprint, zigzagging through the thicket, each heartbeat pulsing loud in her ears, drowning out everything else. The laughter faded, replaced by a soft, inviting hum that tugged at her from different directions. "Follow us," it beckoned, sing-song, yet chilling, a twisted lullaby wrapping around her mind. Suddenly, the ground beneath her swelled and dipped. She caught sight of a wide clearing up ahead, illuminated by an eerie moonlight that painted the trees in ghostly hues. It was a small clearing she recognized from before Lucas had chased fireflies there on warm summer nights. But now, it was filled with those shadowy figures, flickering shapes like wisps of smoke, darting between trees. They encircled something in the center. She felt a knot in her stomach tighten. A primal instinct screamed at her to turn back, to flee into the depths of the forest, but her legs felt heavy and rooted. The figures paused, their heads tilting toward her, eyes empty and dark, mirroring the very night around her. "Mommy!" Lucas's voice rang out again, cutting through the tense atmosphere, desperately sweet, yet laced with pain. "Lucas!" She surged forward, adrenaline blasting through her veins, but every step felt weighted. "Come play with us," the figures chorused, their hands outstretched, twisting and turning toward her like hungry vines. The words dripped with some malevolent delight, so oddly cheerful against the horror unfurling around her. "Stay away." Panic exploded within her. She lunged forward into the clearing, the figures dissolving around her, swirling like leaves caught in a gust of wind. But at the center lay a darkened pit, with chilling whispers emanating from its depths. And there, just above the jagged hole, was a face. Lucas's face. "Mommy!" he cried, tears streaking his mud-caked cheeks. His eyes were wild, frightened. "Help!" Sarah's heart shattered at the sight, but then hardened. She rushed to him, the shadows rising like monstrous waves. "I'm here. I'm here." Suddenly, the whispering intensified, a screeching cacophony that tugged at her sanity. There were more voices now familiar, yet twisted. She froze. It wasn't he, just Lucas beneath the surface. "Let him go," she screamed, scrambling closer, but the darkness began to pull her back, a tidal wave of suffocating despair. The pit seemed deeper than it appeared, shadows clawing at her legs, moving closer, almost playful now. "Help us!" Mommy Lucas's voice splintered and echoed, transforming into a chorus of children's pleas, melding with the shadowy figures that writhed around. "Stop!" she shrieked. Every nerve in her body screamed to retreat, but she pushed on. The weight of the darkness bore down on her, suffocating, as if the very air conspired against her. Breathless, she grasped Lucas's hands, felt skin against skin, warmth against the cold that surrounded them. Just as she thought she could pull him from the abyss, the figures lunged, recoiling at the sudden light bursting from her grasp. Sarah, quaking but resolute, shouted, "I want to let you have him." And then, the ground shook, the pit widened beneath her, threatening to swallow them both. "Why not join us?" The child voice wailed, distorted, swirling within the dark. In that moment, she realized this was no mere game. This was a nightmare painted in shadows, stretching far beyond the forest floor. Despair soaked into her, a vicious cycle threatening to entrap them. With a roar, she yanked Lucas free, yet felt something cold and slick grab at her ankle. The chant of pleas rose to a crescendo, shaking her resolve to its core. Then, in that fleeting instant of raw panic, what if she wasn't he the one saving Lucas? What if she was dragging him into the dark? As she fought against the shadows enveloping her, frantic thoughts raced through her mind. Could they truly escape? And just as Sarah was about to break free, a looming shadow emerged, larger than the rest, of darkness that swallowed all light. Mommy Lucas's voice softened, trembling. But before she could respond, everything flickered like a dying bulb, and the shadows began to unravel what lay waiting in that dark expanse, where the cries of trapped children melded into an unholy symphony. Would they find an escape or be consumed by the very horrors they feared? Everything around Sarah twisted and blurred, time losing its grip as the darkness pulsed like a living thing. "Lucas!" She screamed again, ripping through the void, desperation breaking her voice. The shadows receded just enough for her to see his desperate face, yet a chill whispered of betrayal. What if that's not truly him? Her heart waged war against her sanity. With all her strength, she tugged Lucas up toward her. The pit gaped like a ravenous maw, shadows gripping her legs tighter, dragging her down as they hissed. "Why won't you play?" One shadowed figure hissed, its form flickering like a dying candle. "We just want to play, not with you." She wrestled against the dark grip, feeling her strength dwindling as the weight of countless tiny hands clutched and pinched and pulled. They were relentless. Yet, Lucas's face remained, a beacon of warmth amidst the encroaching horror. His little hands wrapped around hers, tiny fingers trembling. "Mommy, please." The urgent plea shot through her as if punched right into her chest. A sudden rush of adrenaline coursed through her veins, igniting the fight within her. "Let go of us," she roared, and her voice rang with a newfound power. She pulled with everything she had, dragging Lucas closer, inch by inch. The shadows screeched, unnatural and raw, their whispers lashing at her like thunder. "You can't leave. We need you. We need him." But as their cries rose in pitch, Sarah's resolve hardened. She bent down, gripping Lucas tight. "We're leaving. No one is taking you." The pit trembled, edges fracturing as if a giant claw was trying to pry it open further. The darkness swirled violently around them, pent-up energy threatening to erupt. Yet, in that moment of defiance, something changed. A rift within the shadows. They recoiled, drawing back as if a blinding light burst from her very being. Sarah didn't look back. She couldn't afford to. She and Lucas climbed with ferocity, pulling away from the pit as the shadow figures flickered, thick with rage and despair. Then it happened. A terrible shriek echoed in the night, one that twisted deep inside her gut. "You'll regret this," it wailed, the sound wrapping around her like ice. She stumbled out of the darkness, falling onto the cold, damp earth beyond the edge of the clearing. The shadows writhed just out of reach, their form collapsing like dying embers. She gasped, pulling Lucas against her, the familiar feel of his warmth anchoring her. As she looked around, panting for breath, the eerie quiet was nearly more deafening than the chaos she had just escaped. The forest loomed dark and silent, but something deep within twisted uncomfortably. Had they really escaped? Or was this just a lull before a storm? "Lucas, are you okay?" She searched his face, searching for signs of his soul lost in the darkness. He nodded, yet his eyes glimmered with something she couldn't place: fear, sadness, or maybe understanding. "Mommy, they're coming," he muttered, looking over her shoulder. Her heart leapt into her throat. Who? But the answer came from the shadows behind her. Faint whispers floated on the wind, curling around her like fingers, dragging her gaze back toward the clearing. "You can't escape us," the laughter returned, haunting and echoing. It cascaded through the night, warming her blood with terror, making each hair on her body prickle with unease. What if there were more than just shadows waiting? What if the night's hunt had just begun? With a single glance back into the blackness, she knew she couldn't outrun the darkness. Is running even an option when the terror lurks just out of sight, always trailing closer? Would they ever be free? The air felt thick, a suffocating weight pressing down on Sarah's chest. She clutched Lucas tightly, their heartbeats a frantic symphony against the encroaching night. The forest loomed, twisted branches reaching out like grasping hands. "Stay close to me," she whispered, though panic clawed its way up her throat. The shadows behind them stirred, a restless ocean of ink, the whispers growing louder. "You can't hide from us, we can smell your fear," a shiver rippled through her. Sarah scanned the trees, the darkness still somehow deeper, darker, hiding things unseen. "We have to move. Now." She grabbed Lucas's hand, steering him toward the narrow path that wound deeper into the woods. Each step felt agonizingly slow. The leaves crunched beneath their feet, the sound sharp and slicing through the silence. Despite their desperate escape, The whispers wove through the branches and danced around her ears. "Why do you run?" they called, voices overlapping, sinister and sweet like sickly honey. "We only want to play stop it," Sarah shouted, her voice echoing off the gnarled tree trunks. The shadows swelled, seeming to throb with laughter. As they plunged further down the path, flickers of light danced at the edges of her vision. Illuminations that seemed inviting and yet spoke of danger. "Stay away from the lights," she muttered, gripping Lucas's arm tighter. "We shouldn't go there." "I don't like the lights, Mommy," Lucas whispered, peering up at her, eyes wide and terrified. Suddenly, a loud crack split the air, followed by rustling as something huge moved in the bushes nearby. Her stomach dropped. What was that? The darkness around her seemed to convulse. "Just run," Sarah shouted, adrenaline coursing through her, propelling her forward. But Lucas hesitated, fear etched on his innocent features. "Mommy, wait," he pleaded, glancing back as if something sinister lurked just beyond them. She turned, her patience snapping. "We need to go? Now." The shadows lunged again, darting forward to close the distance, their laughter a dissonant cacophony. "Let us play hide and seek," they jeered, anticipation palpable in the cold, damp air. With a guttural roar, Sarah yanked Lucas along as she sprinted down the winding path. Her breath came in sharp gasps, each inhale tasting of dread, each exhale filled with urgency. But the path twisted and turned, the trees shifting positions, blocking their escape. "Why are we going in circles?" Lucas's voice quivered, panic rising. "Just keep running." Then she saw an enormous, distorted tree, its roots strangling the ground like clawing fingers. Fleeting images flashed in her mind, visions of others lost, of smiles blighted by madness. What if it's a trap?" Lucas whispered, halting in his tracks, eyes wide with realization. The shadows congealed around them, smirking and circling, their eyes glinting. "Ah, so smart. But you're too late." Suddenly, the world shifted again, darkness imploding and then bursting forth, revealing an eerie light ahead. A glowing doorway formed just past the twisted roots, its edges shimmering like a portal to another realm. "Mommy, we should go to the light," Lucas urged, pointing. The warmth from that doorway beckoned, and yet something deep inside Sarah screamed not to trust it. "No, I want to let them trap us," she yelled, steering him back toward the trees. But the shadows lunged again, swift and deliberate. Sarah could feel their breath, icy and alive, tugging at her resolve. "You will join us." With a desperate cry, she pushed forward, her heart pounding fiercely in her chest. The path twisted, but still, the doorway glimmered enticingly behind them. Was it an escape? Or a clever ruse? A sickening dread filled her as they veered away from the light. But was there truly anywhere left to run? "Mommy," Lucas whimpered, the innocence in his voice cracking her resolve. And in that moment, Sarah paused, torn between flight and the possibility of salvation. Shadows closed in, laughter growing darker, fevered anticipation rising, a hunger unquenchable. Could she dare trust the light? Or would the shadows consume them both? As she stood at the edge of despair, facing the doorway, a sobering thought struck her. With each heartbeat, the choice slipped further away, leaving behind only dread and an insatiable thirst for chaos. What if stepping toward the light was the greatest mistake she could make? A thick silence cloaked the clearing, broken only by ragged breaths and the rustling leaves sounding like whispers, beckoning for Sarah and Lucas. Fear wrapped around Sarah's heart, squeezing with every flicker of movement among the shadows. They were trapped between two worlds, one filled with the promise of light, and the other drowning in darkness. "Mommy, please." Lucas's voice quivered, tugging at her heartstrings. For a split second, doubt filled her mind. Could that illuminative doorway truly be salvation? But the shadows pulsed around them, a sinister pulse, seemingly alive with malicious intent. "Not a chance," she muttered, gripping Lucas's hand tighter, determination flaring within her. "Mommy." Lucas pointed back toward the tree line, a shiver in his voice. The shadows shifted, drawing back momentarily, as if surprised by their defiance. Then laughter erupted, sharp and chaotic, clouding her mind with panic. "Do you hear it?" The voices echoed. "They're calling for you," but she forced herself to push through the fear, one foot after another. "Run," she urged Lucas, guiding him past the twisted roots, every sinew in her body screaming to keep moving. The shadows recoiled at first, but as they made their way toward the gaping maw of the doorway, the darkness surged forward, chasing them relentlessly. "You've chosen wrong," it shrieked, laughter turning into a terrifying howl, splitting the night open like a wound. "Given," the shadows beckoned, their forms coiling and twisting, trying to ensnare them, to pull them back into that suffocating embrace. "Almost there. Don't look back," Sarah shouted, her heart racing. As they approached the doorway, a blinding light bathed them, flickering and warm. It flickered like a lighthouse cutting through the fog, alive with hope. Then a sudden chill froze the air. "No," Sarah cried, as she felt Lucas slip from her grip. "Lucas!" A deep dread surged through her as she turned just in time to see the shadows wrap around her son, their laughter amplifying as they pulled him into their dark embrace, eyes glinting with joy. But she could not lose him. Nowhere was safe. "I won T," she screamed, diving forward. Grabbing Lucas's arm just as he was yanked away, she summoned every ounce of strength and yanked him back with a force that sent ripples through the forest. The shadows clawed at her, freezing her veins with cold fear, but she pulled him closer, desperately finding his warmth in her hand. "Mom, I can feel them. They want us," Lucas shouted, wide-eyed and stricken. I know," she gasped, glancing over her shoulder. The swirling mist of shadow-filled dread pressed tighter, laughter ringing around them like nails on a chalkboard. Time was running out. "Jump," she commanded, and in one swift movement, she yanked Lucas and leaped toward the shimmering doorway. As they crashed through the threshold, a blinding light enveloped them, blaring in a way that disoriented Sarah, pounding against her senses. The shadows screamed behind them, seething, angry, but the moment they hit the light, the cacophony shrank to a whisper, furiously trailing off into silence. Breathless, she landed hard on solid ground, laying sprawled in an unfamiliar space. The brightness shimmered around them like a new dawn breaking through the night. As her eyes adjusted, the world slipped into focus, the haunting woods fading behind them, the shadows losing their hold. "Are we free?" Lucas whispered, staring up at her, fear still dancing in his beautiful brown eyes. "Yes," she panted, hugging him tight. "We made it." But cracks in the light echoed softly. Something felt abnormal, fragile. She glanced around, slowly piecing together where they landed. They stood in a meadow, bright and vibrant, lush with wildflowers scattered like confetti, an illusory peace surrounding them. Yet, they had faced true evil. Shadows danced in the peripheries of memory. Could it resurface? Grief washed over Sarah, knowing the cost their escape might not be complete. The heavy air wrapped around her heart once more. "Mommy, are they gone?" Lucas's voice broke. Through her thoughts, desperate. "I think so." But the uncertainty knotted around her heart. Something deep within told her the shadows lingered, biding their time. Together, they rose and turned toward the golden horizon. The sun was just peeking over the hills, beckoning with its warmth, promising a new beginning. "If they come back," Lucas started, but she took a deep breath, erecting resolve within her. "They won T," she asserted fiercely. "We're stronger. Together, we can face whatever comes our way." Hand in hand, they stepped into the brightness, leaving behind the sinister path and the darkness that once swallowed everything whole. And though a shadow loomed on the horizon, it felt distant. They would have their moment, the dawn of new stories, free from the curse of haunted trails. As they walked towards the warmth of the sun, they were embraced in the promise only resilience could bring, the laughter of a little boy filling the air like a melody, the cool grip of fear fading behind them like a chilling dream lost in the night. This time, they were free. Don't wait another moment. You need to subscribe now to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. We need your support. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Let your voice be heard. And for the love of all that is haunted, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You'll be the hero of their ghoulish nights. Don't miss out. Show your support for the channel right now.